Imagine for a moment that the air you are breathing right now is not the recycled, conditioned air of a room, but something thick, tangible, and alive. It carries the damp, sweet scent of decaying leaves, a perfume of fertility, mingled with the sudden, spicy note of a crushed herb under an unseen foot. The light is not the flat, even light of day, but a dappled, shifting mosaic of gold and green, filtering through a canopy so dense it feels like a cathedral ceiling crafted by nature itself over millennia. You hear a constant, layered symphony, the distant, rhythmic percussion of what can only be water-meeting stone, the chirping of 1,000 hidden insects conducting their endless business, the occasional, haunting call of a bird you cannot see and cannot name. This is not just a setting. This is an entire world, a sensory universe contained within the idea of a jungle path leading toward a waterfall. And that path is not merely a trail of dirt and roots. It is a narrative, a living timeline, and for many who have dared to walk it, it becomes a profound metaphor for life's own journey. Today, we are not just going to describe this path. We are going to walk it together, step by deliberate step, from its mysterious, shaded beginning to its thunderous, awe-inspiring conclusion. We will uncover the hidden science behind the jungle's chaos, decode the language of its sounds, and understand why this specific journey from the uncertain, starred-down and narrow, winding trail to the powerful revelation of a waterfall resonates so deeply in the human psyche. This is a trek through ecology, psychology, and pure adventure. Consider the very first step onto that path. The boundary is often sudden. One moment, you are in the relative order of the jungle's edge, and the next, you are enveloped. The ground underfoot changes from solid earth to a soft, spongy mattress of humus centers of fallen leaves, branches, and flowers composted into a rich, dark layer that absorbs sound and gives gently with your weight. This is the planet's living skin, and it is here, in the first few meters, that the jungle begins its first lesson, humility. You are not a conqueror here, you are a guest, and a very small one. The trees, many of them buttressed with great, woody flanges that look like the fins of rockets or the walls of cathedrals, tower overhead. These buttresses are not aesthetic choices, they are brilliant feats of natural engineering, allowing these giants to anchor themselves in the shallow, nutrient-poor soils of the rainforest. Every element here serves a purpose in a tightly wound web of survival. The path itself, often narrow and winding, forces a slower pace. It is nature's way of imposing mindfulness. You cannot rush. You must watch for the coiled root that threatens to trip you, for the slick patch of mud disguised by leaves, for the delicate, thorny vine waiting to graze your arm. This forced slowness is the first gift of the jungle. It strips away the hurried pace of modern life and immediately recalibrates your senses to a more ancient rhythm. As you move deeper, the soundscape evolves. The distant roar of the waterfall, your destination, becomes a constant bass note, a gravitational pull drawing you forward. But layered atop it are the immediate, close quarters sounds of life. The rustle in the undergrowth could be a land crab, a small rodent, or the leg of a majestic deer. The sudden crack of a branch high above might signal the movement of a troop of monkeys traveling through the aerial highway of the canopy, a world entirely separate from the forest floor. Scientists call this the vertical stratification of the rainforest, and it's one of the reasons these ecosystems harbor such immense biodiversity. Different species occupy specific layers, the forest floor, the understory, the canopy, and the emergent giants that pierce above it all. You on the path are a transient visitor in the understory. Your presence sends ripple through this layered world. Birds you disturb may issue alarm calls, creating a wave of sound that moves ahead of you, an announcement of your intrusion. This is the jungle's communication network, a real-time information system that has existed long before our own internet. And then there are the things you see if you pause and truly look. This is where the path becomes a gallery of endless fascination. A line of leafcutter ants, each carrying a piece of foliage many times its own weight, marches in a perfectly organized column across the path. They are not eating these leaves directly, they are farmers. They will take this vegetation back to their vast underground colonies to cultivate a specific fungus, which is their true food. This agricultural practice is millions of years old. On a tree trunk, you might see a breathtaking orchid not rooted in soil but clinging to the bark. This is an epiphyte, or air plant. It lives on the tree for physical support, but takes no nutrients from it. It gathers moisture and minerals from the air, rain, and decaying matter that collects around it. It is a symbol of elegant adaptation, finding opportunity in the heights. The path is also a testament to fierce competition for light. Lianas, thick, woody vines drape from the canopy like great ropes, having used the strength of trees to climb toward the sun. Strangler figs begin life as a seed deposited by a bird in the crook of a high branch. They send roots down to the ground, slowly enveloping the host tree in a living cage, eventually outcompeting it for light and nutrients, standing hollow and majestic where their host once stood. This is not cruelty. It is the relentless, immoral process of life seeking life. Every step on this jungle path confronts you with these stark and beautiful truths of existence, cooperation, competition, adaptation, and the endless cycle of life and death. The roar of the waterfall grows louder, a promise hanging in the humid air. The increasing volume of the waterfall's roar acts as both a compass and a metronome, its tempo syncing with your own heartbeat as the path begins its most transformative phase. The air, already thick, becomes visibly moist. A fine, cool mist starts to kiss your skin, a tangible preview of the destination. This is where the path often starts to descend, sometimes gently, sometimes via a series of natural, root-formed steps or slippery, moss-covered stones that require your full attention. The botanical life here changes in response to the perpetual moisture. The leaves are often larger, glossier, designed to shed the constant water. Ferns, some as tall as small trees, unfurl in magnificent, prehistoric sprays. Moss and liverworts carpet every available surface, rocks, logs, the bases of trees in a vibrant, luminous green velvet. This micro-ecosystem is a world within a world, home to tiny frogs, countless insects, and a universe of microorganisms. The sound is now overwhelming, a physical vibration you feel in your chest. It drowns out the subtler sounds of the jungle, creating a sonic blanket that paradoxically heightens your other senses. You stop talking if you were with someone. The sheer auditory power commands a silent reverence. This part of the journey is the final approach, the last act before the revelation, and it is charged with a palpable, almost electric anticipation. Then, through a final curtain of hanging vines and broad leaves, you see it. Or rather, you see its effects first. The light changes dramatically. The dappled green-gold filter of the deep jungle gives way to a dazzling, spray-diffused brilliance. The air is now a swirling vortex of mist and negative ions. You step out onto a rocky platform, and there it is, the waterfall. It is not just something you look at, it is something you experience with your entire body. The sound is no longer a distant roar, but a full-body immersion in white noise, a primal frequency that seems to erase mental clutter. Mist coats your skin, your clothes, your hair. The sight is, of course, majestic, a sheer curtain of white water, tons of it, plunging with relentless force from a height that makes you feel infinitesimally small. It crashes into a turquoise or frothy white pool below, churning it into a cauldron of energy. This is the climax of the path, the payoff for the journey. But why does this moment feel so universally profound? Why do humans from all cultures gravitate towards waterfalls? The reasons are layered, much like the jungle itself. Scientifically, the environment around a waterfall is a powerhouse of negative ions. These are oxygen molecules charged with an extra electron, generated by the sheer force of the water crashing into itself and the rocks. Studies in environmental psychology have shown that environments rich in negative ions like waterfalls, ocean surf, and mountains after a storm can have a measurable positive effect on mood, reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety and increasing overall feelings of well-being. That fresh, clean feeling you get is not just in your mind, it's a biochemical response to the air you are breathing. The sound itself, that overwhelming white noise, acts as a form of natural auditory therapy. It masks the jarring, inconsistent noises of modern life, traffic alarms, electronic pings, and replaces them with a constant, predictable, and powerful natural sound. This can lower cortisol levels, slow heart rate, and induce a state of calm alertness. Your journey down the jungle path has literally brought you to a natural wellness spa, engineered by geology and hydrology over thousands of years. But beyond the science, there is a deep, symbolic resonance. The jungle path is a perfect metaphor for any difficult, uncertain, or exploratory journey in our own lives. It starts with a decision to enter the unknown, stepping off the known world into the green shade. It involves obstacles, roots, mud, steep climbs. It requires patience, persistence, and presence of mind, the forced slow pace, the need to watch your step. It presents moments of beauty and wonder along the way, the orchids, the ants, the play of light. It can feel confusing, with twists and turns where the destination seems lost, the winding path. And just when you might feel fatigued or doubt your direction, the growing sound reinforces your purpose. The final emergence into the open space of the waterfall represents achievement, clarity, and breathtaking reward. It is the moment of breakthrough after a long struggle, the solution after intense thought, the peace after turmoil. The waterfall itself, with its relentless, powerful flow, symbolizes unstoppable force, natural energy, and perpetual change. Standing before it, you are reminded of the world's raw power and timeless beauty, putting your own concerns into a vast, humbling, and ultimately comforting perspective. This moment of arrival is also a moment of integration. You are no longer separate from the scene, you are in it. The mist integrates you. The sound vibrates through you. You may feel an urge to touch the water, to step closer, to fully immerse yourself in the experience. This is a biological impulse to connect, to physically verify the reality of the sublime. The pool at the base, often visited by sunlight, can look like a basin of liquid light, inviting and pure. It represents a culmination, but also a cycle. The water that crashes down will join the river that feeds the jungle, will evaporate into the clouds that water the canopy, and will continue this endless journey. You, standing there, are a witness to one moment in that eternal cycle. The path did not just lead you to a scenic spot, it led you to a profound understanding of process, cycle, and interconnectedness. The journey and the destination have become one concept. You realize the path was the waterfall, in a sense, a slow, terrestrial version of the water's own inevitable, gravity-driven path from the heights to the depths. You have walked the same intention as the river, just at a different speed and scale. This realization is the true treasure at the end of the trail, a mental and spiritual souvenir far more lasting than any photograph. To truly appreciate the scale of this journey, we must pull back even further to a macro view of how this jungle path and its waterfall came to be. This isn't a random occurrence. It is the latest chapter in a story written over millions of years. The very rock over which the water plunges tells a tale of ancient seabeds, volcanic activity, or continental shifts. The jungle that cloaks it is a testament to a relentless, slow-motion conquest by life, seizing every niche and opportunity. Let's follow the water's own longer path. It begins as rain, part of the rainforest's own efficient recycling system. A significant portion of the moisture in the air is transpired by the trees themselves, creating its own rainfall. This water collects on the vast leafy surface area of the canopy, some dripping down, some flowing along branches and vines, some absorbed by epiphytic gardens high in the air. It reaches the soil and is either taken up by the incredible network of roots or it percolates down, joining the groundwater. This groundwater slowly, patiently works its way through layers of rock and soil, following the pull of gravity in the path of least resistance, often over centuries. It feeds springs and seeps that become trickles, which join to form streams. These streams are the true, unseen pathfinders. They are the original sculptors of the landscape you are walking. Over millennia, a stream cuts its course, wearing away soft rock, navigating around hard rock, creating the very valleys and gorges that define the terrain. The path you walk often follows the logic of these ancient watercourses, tracing a line of accessible grade carved by water long before humans ever arrived. The stream gains volume from other tributaries, from constant rainfall, from the very breath of the humid jungle. Its character changes from a gentle trickle to a confident flow, rushing over boulders, carving out pools, undercutting banks where trees precariously cling. The sound of moving water becomes a permanent feature of its stretch of the forest. Then, it encounters a drastic change in topography, a cliff face formed by a fault line, a layer of extremely resistant rock over a much softer layer that has eroded away beneath it. Here, the water has no choice but to follow gravity in its most dramatic form, the freefall. The waterfall is born. Its power is not just in its height or volume, but in its constancy. This is not a seasonal trickle. It is the perpetual heartbeat of the landscape, fed by the immense, living sponge of the rainforest and the vast, slow reservoirs of groundwater. Now, let's consider the jungle's role. The rainforest is the guardian and the beneficiary of this water system. The complex root matrix acts as a giant filter, purifying the water that flows through it. The canopy breaks the force of torrential rains, preventing catastrophic soil erosion that would otherwise silt up the streams and the waterfall's pool. Every plant, from the tallest emergent tree to the smallest fern in the path, plays a part in regulating this hydrological cycle. The existence of the path itself is a fascinating intersection of human and natural history. It may have begun as a game trail used by tapirs, peccaries, or other large mammals seeking water or moving between feeding grounds. Indigenous peoples, with deep, generational knowledge of the land, would have identified and gently modified these trails for their own use, traveling to the waterfall for war, for fishing, or for spiritual purposes. In some cultures, waterfalls are seen as sacred sites, gateways to other worlds, or the dwelling places of deities. The path to them is therefore a pilgrimage route. The modern trail you might walk is often a legacy of these ancient pathways, later used by explorers, rubber tappers, or naturalists. Each footfall over decades or centuries has worn it slightly deeper into the forest floor, a collective human imprint on the natural world, but the jungle is always ready to reclaim it. If abandoned for a single rainy season, seedlings would sprout in the middle of the track, vines would drape across it, and leaf litter would begin to obscure its boundaries. The path is a quiet agreement, a temporary and respectful concession from the jungle, not a permanent conquest. This adds another layer of meaning to your walk. You are participating in a historical ritual, following in the literal footsteps of countless other beings, human and animal, who have made the same journey for sustenance, for discovery, or for. You are a link in a chain of witnesses. The organic data of this place is written in the stratified rock, in the rings of the trees that line the path, in the composition of species that change as you near the mist zone. Scientists can drill core samples from the pool's sediment to learn about climate change over thousands of years. They can study the specialized mosses to understand air quality. They can catalog the unique insects that live only in the splash zone of the waterfall. Your walk, while personal, is a traversal of a living library of ecological and geological data. This macro perspective makes the final micro moment of arrival even more potent. When you finally feel that cool mist and see the cascade, you are not just looking at a pretty view, you are witnessing the current dynamic expression of forces that have been at work for epochs. You are seeing the end point of a water molecule's journey that may have started as rain a week ago, or as groundwater 1,000 years ago. You are standing in a space shaped by relentless, patient force and maintained by an incomprehensibly complex web of life. The jungle path taught you the details, the fungi on the roots, the ants on the march, the geometry of a fern. The waterfall presents you with the grand conclusion, the powerful summation of all those details into a single, overwhelming output of energy and beauty. It is the exclamation mark at the end of the long, complex sentence written by the landscape. And in that moment, the boundary between you, the observer, and the scene the observed begins to blur in the mist. You are not just a visitor anymore. For this brief moment, you are part of the data stream, a sensory node recording and responding to one of Earth's most fundamental processes, the endless, cycling journey of water from sky to land to sea and back again, and the explosion of life that flourishes in its path. But what happens after the waterfall? The path, both literal and metaphorical, does not simply end at the precipice of awe. The water that crashes into the pool does not vanish. It gathers itself, swirled and oxygenated, and continues its journey as a river, often wider and more powerful than the stream that fed the fall. This river then carves a new path through the jungle, eventually joining larger rivers, and finally reaching the ocean. Similarly, your experience on the path and at the waterfall creates a psychological and emotional river within you that continues to flow long after you physically left the site. This is the carryover effect of deep nature immersion, a well-documented phenomenon where the feelings of calm, clarity, and connectedness persist, influencing your mindset and behavior back in the everyday world. The roaring silence of the waterfall can become a mental tool you access in moments of stress, a remembered anchor of peace. The intricate patience of the jungle ecosystem can reframe how you view challenges, seeing them as interconnected systems rather than isolated problems. The journey in its entirety becomes an internalized map. Let's follow this outgoing river from the waterfall's pool. It is now a major feature in the landscape. Liquid highway. Its banks are different from the quieter upland stream. They may be more open, with larger trees whose roots drink deeply from the constant flow. This river becomes the central artery of a new zone of life. Fish species that require higher oxygen levels, churned up by the waterfall, thrive in its rapids. Birds that feed on those fish, like kingfishers with their dazzling plumage and lightning dives, become common. The path alongside this river, if it continues, changes character again. It is often flatter, following the floodplain and sunnier, where the canopy opens over the water. The sound is different too, less of a monolithic roar and more of a rushing, bubbling conversation. This part of the walk is often one of integration and reflection. The intense climax has passed, and now you are in the denouement, absorbing what you've witnessed while being presented with a new, flowing perspective. You see the results of the waterfall's work, the polished boulders, the deep swimming holes, the sandy beaches created during the dry season. The jungle path, having delivered its prize, now offers a gentler companion for your return or your further exploration. This return journey is never a simple backtrack. You see everything with new eyes. The fern you passed on the way in now looks like a miniature waterfall itself, its fronds cascading green. The column of ants looks like a flowing, terrestrial river of life. The towering trees feel like the silent, patient sentinels that made the waterfall's existence possible through their water cycle. The path itself feels more familiar, but no less sacred. You notice details you missed on the way in, perhaps because your anticipation was focused forward. Now, in a state of fulfilled awe, your perception is more relaxed, more holistic. This is a critical phase of the experience, the consolidation. Neuroscientists would say that during the intense experience of the waterfall, your brain was in a high theta or even delta wave state, associated with awe and transcendence. On the return, in a more reflective alpha state, you are processing and encoding the memory, weaving the sensory data into your long-term cognitive and emotional frameworks. This is why the journey back can feel peaceful, even meditative, and why the entire experience tends to stick with you so vividly. The metaphor extends perfectly here. After any major life achievement or profound personal insight, the waterfall moment, in your career, relationship, or creative pursuit, there is always an after. There's the integration phase. You must carry the energy, the lesson, or the success back into your daily life. You must navigate the now changed landscape of your normal routine with this new perspective. The river after the waterfall is that process. It's applying the clarity you gained. It's sharing the story of your journey with others, which in itself deepens your own understanding. It's allowing the humbling scale of nature to shrink your ego and your worries down to a manageable, healthier size. The jungle, on your return, feels less like an intimidating unknown and more like a complex, beautiful system of which you briefly get to be a part. This shift from outsider to participant is one of the most profound gifts of the entire trek. Furthermore, this ecosystem, from the first step on the path to the waterfall and the river beyond, operates on a principle of reciprocal exchange. The water nourishes the jungle regulates and filters the water. The animals disperse the seeds of the plants provide food and shelter for the animals. Your presence, as a conscious witness, completes another kind of loop. You receive beauty, peace, and perspective. What do you give back? This is the crucial question of eco-consciousness. Your responsibility is to leave no trace, to disrupt as little as possible, to carry out everything you carried in. Your deeper responsibility is to become an advocate, even in a small way, for the preservation of such places. The memory of the mist on your face should translate into support for conservation, into mindful choices, into a voice that speaks for the intrinsic value of these wild path and waterfall worlds. The journey, therefore, creates a silent contract. The path gave you a transformative experience. In return, you owe it your respect and your protection so that it can continue to exist, to flow, and to offer its majestic lesson to the next traveler who decides to step off the known world and into the green dappled shade, pulled by the distant, promising roar of something magnificent waiting to be found. As we conclude this immersive journey, let's crystallize the core truth that this jungle path toward a waterfall reveals. It is the ultimate expression of process over endpoint. While the waterfall is the dazzling destination, the 5,000 steps you took to get there, each one through a living, breathing, and endlessly detailed world, contained the true substance of the experience. The destination provided the climax, but the path provided the story, the context, and the transformation. In our modern, results-driven lives, we are conditioned to seek the waterfall instantly, the promotion, the finished product, the viral moment, often wishing we could helicopter directly to the payoff. But this natural parable teaches us that the value is woven into the struggle, the curiosity, the patience, and the attentive travel. The roots that threatened to trip you taught you to watch your step in life. The hidden orchid taught you that beauty thrives in unexpected places when you look closely. The ants taught you about collaboration and grand purpose on a miniature scale. The growing roar taught you about faith and direction when the goal is not yet visible. The waterfall then becomes less of a trophy and more of a magnificent affirmation that you were on the right path all along. This concept is backed by a wealth of psychological and neurological research on what is called anticipatory savoring and effort justification. The brain derives immense pleasure and builds robust neural pathways not just from reward, but from the anticipation of rewards and from the effort expended to achieve them. The long, engaging journey to the waterfall creates a sustained buildup of dopamine and other neurochemicals associated with desire and focused attention. When you finally arrive, the release is not just of awe, but of a complex cocktail of satisfaction, accomplishment, and profound relief. This state cements the memory deeply. If you were simply dropped at the waterfall, the view would be beautiful, but the experience would be shallow, lacking the rich, personal narrative that your own effort wrote into it. The path is the meaning maker. It makes the waterfall yours. It transforms it from a postcard image into a personal milestone. This is why the most memorable achievements in your own life are almost certainly, though, that required a long, sometimes difficult, path of learning, practice, and perseverance. The diploma feels different when you remember the all-night study sessions. The artistic masterpiece is inseparable from the years of failed sketches. The strong relationship is built on thousands of small, patient moments of understanding. So, how do we take this jungle wisdom and apply it to our daily, often pavement-bound lives? We become pathfinders in our own domains. We learn to cultivate the jungle path mindset. This means seeking out and valuing process. It means breaking down a large, daunting goal, your personal waterfall, into the single, manageable steps of the path. It means being present and attentive to the small lessons and beauties along the way, the ferns and ants of your journey, instead of fixating solely on the distant roar. It means accepting that the path will wind, there will be muddy patch and steep sections, and that this is not an indication of failure but an intrinsic part of the terrain. It means trusting the process even when the destination is out of sight. Using the growing evidence of your progress, the strengthening skills, the accumulating knowledge as your guiding sound. It means understanding that true growth and fulfillment happen on the path, not just at the end of it. The waterfall moment is a celebration, but the person you become is forged step by step on the trail. Therefore, I want you to do this before the next sunset pause. Close your eyes. Imagine the sound of moving water, the smell of wet earth, the feel of dappled light. See your goal, your waterfall, however hazy. Now open your eyes and take the very first physical, tangible action toward it. Send that email. Write that first sentence. Do that first set of exercises. Make that clarifying phone call. That is you stepping off the known edge and onto your path. The jungle is waiting not to intimidate you, but to reveal its secrets to the one willing to walk with attention and patience. The path is calling. Your waterfall is flowing. It is time to take your first step, and I want to hear about it. Tell me in the comments below, what is your waterfall and what was the first step you took today on your path? Your story might be the signpost that helps another viewer find their own trail. Subscribe for more journeys into the ideas that shape our world, because next time we'll be exploring a different but equally powerful landscape. But for now, your path awaits. Walk well. If this journey resonated with you, if you felt the mist and heard the roar, then your engagement is the fuel for this channel's own path. Please give this video a massive thumbs up. It's the single best way to tell YouTube this content is valuable. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the deep, fascinating ideas of our world. Most importantly, join the conversation below. Tell me about your waterfall, your first step, or your own experiences in nature that changed your perspective. Let's build a community of pathfinders. And finally, share this video with one person who needs this reminder today, who needs to hear that their struggle, their winding path, is where the real magic is happening. Thank you for walking this 5,000-word path with me. Now, go walk yours.